One of Hyundai's best-selling hatchbacks in certain regions is under distress. According to some higher-ups at Hyundai, the future of the iconic hatchback is in jeopardy. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the future of the Hyundai i30 and determine if it will be replaced by an SUV or if we will continue to see this car for years to come. So what is going on with the hatchback market right now? As we mentioned earlier, the i30 is an extremely popular car in certain parts of the world, so it's probably shocking to some of you watching this right now. I'm sure a handful of you even own an i30. However, in other parts of the world, the hatchback market is on a heavy decline. According to Hyundai, the i30 and other hatchback models are still vastly popular and available. These places include Australia, India, South America, Russia, and all over Europe. However, the biggest decline in hatchback ownership is in North America. American, Canadian, and Mexican drivers are moving away from the hatchback model of vehicle and are opting for a different style of car, threatening the i30 and other hatchbacks towards becoming obsolete. Drivers in the three countries I mentioned simply have no use for a hatchback because the small car market in general has so much competition. For starters, in North America, the roads are less congested than in other parts of the world, allowing people to drive bigger vehicles. This means that the i30 and other hatchback makes have to compete with trucks and SUVs more so than they do in Australia, India, Europe, Russia, and South America. The SUV is becoming an extremely popular option in North America simply due to its ability to combat harsh conditions. In Mexico, having the ability to handle more rugged terrain and potentially go off-road is essential to drivers. On the other hand, people living in North American countries care more about the ability to deal with the snow and go off-road. They also prefer to be able to carry multiple pass lead. So as you can see, the hatchback has some tough competition that it simply cannot compete with. Moreover, the USA and Canada have both declared that all new cars purchased after 2030 must be emission-free, which means that the i30 wouldn't even be sold in either of those countries past 2030. So what does the future of the i30 look like globally, and will the lack of interest in other nations affect its availability around the world? What does Hyundai think of this issue, and how do they plan on solving it? As mentioned earlier, there's still a decent amount of interest globally for the i30. Many countries have lesser commutes and smaller roads in which a compact hatchback like the i30 is ideal. And many drivers do not want to see new models of the i30 go away simply because people in other countries with completely different needs and wants do not want the vehicle that these drivers do. The i30 has been a staple of the Hyundai lineup for the past few years. Introduced in 2017 and receiving a newer design in 2021, the i30 was set to get an entirely new model in 2024, but those plans might be in jeopardy now. While the i30 will not be removed from showrooms anytime soon, it might be pulled out from the market by 2024, when it's expected to get a new model and just be phased out of existence due to the lack of interest. This will severely affect markets where the i30 is still a high-selling vehicle, and Hyundai will need to replace the i30 with something convenient and affordable. So how will they do that? As of this recording, the plan to make a new i30 has completely stalled, as they are still deciding what to do with this model. However, Biermann, a high-ranking global Hyundai executive, did give some tidbits of information at a media event in Germany earlier this month. This executive spoke to Drive, who asked him what Hyundai planned on doing with the i30, and he replied, "The hatchback market is coming down a lot. It's definitely slowing down." Later in the same interview, he was asked if we could expect to see new versions of the i30 in the future, to which he replied, "How long will we continue with the Hyundai i30? You cannot give one answer for the global business." He continued on by saying, "It's hard to tell at this point. I don't know the current state of the decision, but definitely for different regional markets, there are different challenges and different strategies." He later mentioned that he believes that the i30 could survive and even thrive in some markets, but not in others, which is why the decision is so hard to make for Hyundai. They could be making a huge mistake letting it die off, or they could make an even bigger mistake attempting to push the sale of this vehicle when nobody wants it. However, the challenges that this vehicle could face in the future might make for an insurmountable obstacle that might just spell certain doom for the i30. What challenges does the i30 face in the future, and is it worth manufacturing a new model? As we mentioned, the i30 is already facing numerous threats to its way of life in certain markets, while it continues to thrive in others. But what threats does Hyundai see the i30 having to overcome to potentially survive in the future? As we mentioned earlier, some countries require new vehicles to be electric or emission-free by a certain year. So of course, this is leading every car manufacturer to divert resources to creating electric vehicles. Companies must decide which models get an electric version and which cease production altogether. Unfortunately, it appears that the i30 is caught in the crossfire. Albert Biermann outlined Hyundai's concerns by saying, "In certain markets, you need an EV, electric vehicle, in that segment. Then there is SUV competition coming, so they're all cutting away volume from traditional hatchbacks." He continued on by saying, "It's a tough challenge. Clearly, in the markets in which an electric vehicle is going to be necessary for the coming years, they've decided to cut the hatchback, as the markets that need electric cars are also the markets that are seeing the sharpest decline in hatchback ownership." So this essentially guarantees that the i30 will be cut from Hyundai's lineup in these nations, as they would be wasting a metric ton of money and resources on manufacturing the i30, only for it not to be purchased in specific markets. It appears that the i30 will soon have to be replaced by something else. What would Hyundai replace the i30 with if they were to do away with it altogether? Unfortunately for fans of the i30, it does appear that all signs point to it going the way of the Dodo. Vehicles similar to the i30 hatchback, like the Ford Focus and Nissan Pulsar and the Renault Megane, have all ceased to exist simply because customers don't want a hatchback when they can get similar looks with better performance and capabilities with an SUV. Moreover, the small car market has shrunk to a minuscule size in the last decade. For example, in Australia, small cars only made up 8.5% of new car purchases in 2021. However, a decade ago, in just 2011, small cars made up 23%, nearly 1 in every 4 new cars purchased. So it is becoming abundantly clear that the small vehicle in general, not just the hatchback, is on the sharp decline and will probably see a cutback in availability in the next decade as manufacturers move to make electric vehicles. As of this recording, Hyundai has yet to name a replacement SUV that will take the place of the i30. It is a conversation they have had internally. They are aware that moving to an SUV might be the smartest play. However, they do also realize that bowing out of the small car market only enhances their competitors' influence in certain areas, as Volkswagen and Toyota have models that seem to always stay in the limelight regardless of the economy in the Golf and the Corolla, respectively. Honda used to have the Civic in the same market, however, it has transitioned to a luxury vehicle over the past few years, with its latest model being sold at an astonishing $47,200 brand new. Hyundai can get ahead of the game with a small car market going the way it is. They can make a high-riding hatchback model or a brand new SUV that mimics the features and looks of the i30 and corner the market on a new futuristic hybrid between a classic hatchback and a modern SUV, but we will just have to wait and see what the future holds for Hyundai and the i30. That's all we have for you guys today on the channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the content, and we will see you all in the next video.